your mother is Russian?
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, no, she speaks Russian. And he's like, so she's Russian.
When you grow up with that idea that like, okay, grandma didn't have food because of the Russians.
I just met Ukrainian diaspora and like, these people are weird.
As far as I know, like in Ukraine, the education is actually extremely difficult.
They all knew for sure that Russian people can't go to Lviv because they get killed there.
It stood on the shelf a little too long and became a little more than a medicine. Yep, that's the gin.
Welcome to Unmasking. Oh my gosh. Okay, Cindy. Like, I love you, baby, but this is distracting. Can we please look a little bit? Just like slightly. Okay. Okay. Cindy? Yes. Hi. Good morning.
We're trying to do a show here.
Just... I promise you we're getting a little closer to Masha this time. So this is Mishko.
Hello.
He's a UX writer and content designer and also a member of a Ukrainian diaspora in Canada.
I even brought my membership card.
Did you?
No,
Where is it?
it's in my wallet.
You're lying about your membership card. Anyways, what are we talking about this week, Mishko?
Today, we're going to talk about the intricacies of the Ukrainian diaspora and how that culture might differentiate.
Yeah, it much differentiates. I mean, to be fair, the first time that I moved, I kind of want to like, the way that I want to structure this conversation, and I'm saying this for the viewers, is basically like, I'm sure that when you moved here, your idea of like Ukrainians in Ukraine, you had like an idea of it, right?
I did. I was,
Yeah.
primed for a different perspective. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I had an idea of diaspora in the United States, and I think like, I did not get what I paid for.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So what was your experience like?
The first time I came to Ukraine was actually in like 2006, and it was like a family trip.
Okay.
So it was for my dad to sort of reunite me with like that part of the family in the Poltava region. But the time that I came here in 2012 to 15 in the summers, I was studying at UKU, which is the Ukrainian Catholic University.
Yep, Lviv represent.
Yep. And that's when I really started to get a feeling of what Ukraine actually is like when we just kind of let loose after our classes and went amongst the bars and started talking with locals and stuff like that. So
I think like idea of Ukraine for Ukrainian diaspora is very much like rooted back in the 1800s or something.
Oh, yeah, it's rooted way back.
Yeah. And I think, okay, I'm going to start with my experience of Ukrainian diaspora, which is like, I think wild to begin with because it was 2014. So I moved to New York like by myself. I had no relatives. I mean, I do have my godmother Raya, but she is... she lives in Staten Island, and she tells you to put strawberries on counter stall. She's that, $20 bill. She's
also the name Araya. It's
she changed it from like her actual name to an English spin-off to that.
Okay.
She was married to an Italian-American man. It was like a whole thing, She would come to Ukraine sometimes with like TJ Maxx, like tons of TJ Maxx purchases and be like, designer from America. But, that's as much of like family I have there. So my experience with diaspora was because my friend Sophia that I actually met in my elementary school, whose parents immigrated to America.
Okay.
And then I guess brought her with them in like 5th grade. I moved and it was like my only friend or like the only person that I knew who was my age. So I was like, all right, sure. Let's do it. And her family integrated into like the diaspora community. And in 2014, there was a protest in front of the Russian embassy.
Classic.
Yeah. And I went, and it was basically me, Sophia, and like a bunch of other diaspora kids.
This is like the common afternoon on a Sunday.
And then we went to this protest, and at the protest, to be fair, I mean, it's just like a bunch of Ukrainians protesting against Russia, like, cool, fine, sure. And then we went to the diner afterwards, and this is where like I literally felt like I was sitting at like a theater observing. Because first of all, why are half of these kids called Vsevolod and like, these like very antiquated Ukrainian
Mstislav. Ostap.
Yeah, very much so. Well, the one that like struck me the most was Danilo. First of all, Danilo kept correcting my Ukrainian and telling me like the words that I'm using wrong.
Oh.
But like I wasn't. It's just that maybe like 200 years ago these words were used in the way that he thinks they are.
It's like Danilo, we don't call it bulba anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Or barabola.
Yeah, exactly. Like things like that. And I found out that all of them went to Plost, which for like the viewers that might not know that, it's like a Ukrainian boy-girl scout organization. Yep. But in Ukraine, it's not nearly as hardcore as it is like outside.
It's pretty hardcore. I've talked to some Plastune here,
really?
and it's not bad, but you have to really be in it to know about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, so my classmate, like that I went to school with throughout my like middle school and high school experience, Yulia as well, she was in Plast. It was like the kids that knew like in-depth history of Ukraine and how to like make a fire out of, I don't know, stones and stuff, and they went on hikes, and they knew all of these like random battles that happened between Cossacks like back in the day. It was just like incredibly patriotic.
Yep.
So when I moved to the US and I was like, oh my gosh, there are these kids but also on steroids because they live outside of Ukraine and they're trying to like cling on to the Ukrainian heritage.
Yeah.
So here is my experience with Danilo where I was like, what in the actual F is wrong with you? So my mom's family is Russian speaking. And so they were like, I was a new kid on the block, right? So they were like, oh, so where are you from? And I'm like, oh, from Lviv. Okay, cool, approved, And then they asked something about Ukrainian. And I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, like I speak Ukrainian to my dad and like in my everyday life. But like my mom's side of family speaks Russian. And this kid literally like sits down and he's like, your mother is Russian?
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, no, she speaks Russian. And he's like, so she's Russian, which means you are partially Russian. And I have never felt this judged in my entire life. And it was like a kid 3 years younger than I was. And I was just like, sir. So he was really unhappy about my mom being Russian, which she's not. And then he kept telling me about how at Plost and at his Ukrainian school, he realized how to hate Russia so much that every time he sees Russia written anywhere, he just like crosses it out with a pen.
Wow.
And then he went into this like whole like discussion about how Russia is horrible and how we should all hate Russia and how we should all just like, exterminate Russia and stuff. And to someone who's like coming from independent Ukraine, right? Where like we never really had to think about Russia in that way.
Yeah, it was
like,
just kind of there.
It was there,
like...
and it was like definitely spreading its propaganda in the background, but it wasn't in your face, right? So you were just kind of sitting there and being like, what a lunatic.
Yeah.
I like remember calling my dad and being like, dude, I just met Ukrainian diaspora and like these people are weird. So does that ring any?
Yeah, like it's funny because like on my dad's side, my grandparents moved from like Poltava region, like a very small village. I'm not going through the whole story. You can go on another podcast for the whole story. But basically, like when I was growing up, my baba was always like telling me like, you have to eat all your food. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to eat all my food. But like, why do you keep pushing me for this? And she's like, because we didn't have food. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't have food? Like, and she was like, well, the Russians. And so it's just like, when you grow up with that idea that like, okay, grandma didn't have food because of the Russians, you just have this sort of innate understanding built into you that's like, well, I want to have food, so I'm not going to trust the Russians.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. Like, it's similar to, I guess, like in Ukraine, the only thing that stayed from that is we can't throw out bread.
Yeah.
Because of Holodomor and because of like all the deaths of the Ukrainians. Obviously, if someone still doesn't know what Holodomor is and is listening to this podcast, it was a famine artificially created by the Soviet Union. And technically, people always talk about the 31-32 the Holodomor
There was three.
1931-32, but there were three, yeah. And one of them, my grandfather actually survived through, and he was seeing like German people flee from like Soviet concentration camps and also during famine, and he had to move to Lviv from Dnipro because of the famine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were three of them. They were horrendous, and so we still have this tradition of sort of like not throwing out bread because you can't throw out food, no matter what's wrong with the food. Like the food can be bad, you will repurpose it. Like one of the great examples, I don't know if your parents did that, but it's when milk goes bad, you will just make blinchiki out of it.
No, my dad just loves milk. There was never enough milk in the house, so that wasn't a problem.
See, the trauma of my childhood is like when milk goes bad, you just repurpose it into mlinci because when you fry it, the culture is no longer like there to poison you.
Okay.
So you can just, fry your bad milk and make mlinci out of it. I know.
We had this thing with shrimp, sort of, because like my grandma was like, yeah, we didn't have anything to eat, so I was eating like frogs, leaves, and like crayfish. So whenever I was like, I loved shrimp as a kid, I was like, I need the garlic shrimp. And Grandma was like, I'll make it for you, but I'm not touching that. And I'm like, why not? It's so good. And I thought it was just because like Grandma was just like, that's like food for like the wealthy or whatever. And then she was like, no, because like I'm sick of them. And I was like, oh.
Oh, because she had to actually
yeah.
You know what that actually reminded me of? I don't know if you heard this story, but at some point in The Hague during one of the International Criminal Court hearings, there was a Ukrainian food van, like, street food truck parked in The Hague, and it was and like the food there was literally not edible. Like it was really bad. And the people were
good.
like,
it's very artsy.
Yeah. And the people were like, what is this? And they basically took things that people would eat during Holodomor, like makeshift stuff.
I did hear about this.
And they made it into food to demonstrate how bad it was. As in, like they would sell like stale bread with some like I don't even.
That wasn't too long ago, though.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago, and I think it's such an interesting statement.
It's the same statement, I think, that like Ukrainians outside of Ukraine, actually Ukrainians in Ukraine, just Ukrainians in general, they're very artistic. So they're always like, here's the point. If you don't get it, we'll make it very like in your face for you.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of like the culture shock about Ukrainians abroad for me because like again, growing up, 90s, 2000s, like no one wore Vyshyvankas.
Yeah.
No one kind of like had any sort of traditional Ukrainian cultural items because obviously, like we've talked about this, like Russia, pushed its own narratives and like modern TV and all of this stuff. And it wasn't like cool to be Ukrainian or like to follow Ukrainian traditions because it was considered to be like sort of villagey, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward, I come to New York. Every Ukrainian restaurant is like, it's not just Ukrainian things. It's like every single traditional symbol is
all of them in one place.
Plastered.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Like sharovare, check. Vinky, check.
Bulava up top, check.
Check. Yeah, like you will have Ukrainian flag, check. Like a map of Ukraine, check. Carpathian wool, check.
Vinok, Cossack, saber, like
everything. Just everything. But then looking back at it now, I get it, right? I think the first holiday that I went to where everyone was wearing Vyshyvankas and had like traditional like tablecloths and everything like that was at a Diaspora house for Christmas.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and it was like all decked down in diduks and all of the Ukrainian traditional things that I didn't even know existed because no one has ever taught me.
Yeah.
There was a vertap, there were like all of these things, and everyone like there's guys in Vyshyvankas, there's women in like Vyshyvanka dresses, and I was there in my little, sweater dress from some Western brand, kind of just staring at everything and being like, okay.
Meanwhile, there's us who like, I grew up watching nothing but like Ukrainian cartoons, like Trikozaki. That was like my favorite cartoon growing up. I ran around the house in like Sharovara and Vyshyvanka, and like I had my little sword, and I was like, woo.
But you also did Ukrainian traditional dance, right?
Yes, I did. I did Ukrainian folk dancing for 9 years in a little city called Brantford, Ontario.
Oh.
And then I did a summer camp as well in New York with Sizzle Kryli dancers.
Oh, I
That's
think I might have heard about.
probably
Yeah,
Soyuzivka.
yeah. There is a lot of branches of like Ukrainian dancing and theater in Philly and in New York,
Yep.
because large amounts of diaspora. But yeah, I guess like what I'm getting at, right, is that Ukrainian diaspora abroad preserved Ukrainian traditions because they like when your great grandparents moved, at that point, Russia was actively exterminating Ukrainians and
Yep.
Ukraine wasn't independent. Or if it was like the independence was actively being stripped away. So it's like these people remember what it's like to be Russia's neighbor and what Russia is really like. We didn't because we were kind of like we took it for granted because we were
Yeah.
born into like this luxury of like
Well,
living in
also,
a yeah
like a lot of it was destroyed too at the time, or like just
yeah
not being exposed to people. But I think that another interesting thing is like, if you look at like my mom's side of the family, like that part of the family immigrated in like the first wave, which was like the late 1800s. And that was like a different time from the people who immigrated in like World War
yeah
II, because them from like the first wave, a lot of them forgot Ukrainian. A lot of them even tried to like, you know, kind of
Assimilate.
hush the idea that they were Ukrainian because they wanted to assimilate more. And I think like my mom is like a good example of that, because like they changed their last name from Antonichuk to Anthony. And my mom also has an Irish first name. So
Oh.
it's like it was easier for them to sort of pretend they were more like English or anglicized or whatever the term is. But like basically like in Canada, it's like British or French. Like you gotta pick one.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what like Araya did, right? Like she's Rachel Daniels now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's but her name is not
It's
that at all.
probably
It's
like Raisa Danilovich or something.
Danilenko. Danilenko, yeah. So it's but she's Rachel Daniels and she's actually a real estate agent. So it's like if you call and she picks up the phone, she has like the harshest Eastern European accent known to man, even after like what 30 years or something living in the United States, maybe
Yeah.
more. So it's kind of like a wild picture, yeah, Rachel Daniels, sure, you've assimilated. But yeah, it's interesting because when I met a lot of like Ukrainian people through, Sophia and her mom, most of the kids, even if they were like my age, they had very, very antiquated names, which was kind of, I mean, at that point, obviously, I was a kid. So it was kind of like, gross. Like, what is that? Like, what are you out of like a history book or something? But at the same time, it's cool because I've also noticed that, a lot of diaspora people keep Ukrainian names and Ukrainian last names
Yep.
through like generations. You'll be like an eighth generation Ukrainian and like you haven't ever been to Ukraine,
Yeah.
but you speak Ukrainian. Like your name is incredibly Ukrainian. You have like this very old school Ukrainian accent.
Yeah.
And like your entire house is decked down in like Ukrainian stuff. And it's like, I would think they're more like overly Ukrainian than I was. Like I felt inadequately on Ukrainian.
That's the thing though, because like when you're there and you're growing up there, that's all you have of your family's past.
Yeah.
So you can't let go of that, because if you do let go of that, then you just become part of like, I don't know, like the gray mass. You're just like another
Yeah.
person. But when you have that, you also get a lot of perks with it. Like you get community. A lot of people get community from like going to, like you said, like scouts
Yeah.
or church or I don't know, whatever else. Like I know a lot of people in Toronto, like they go to church just to sort of talk with the other Ukrainians. And then we all go to Tim Hortons, which is like the Canadian version of like Starbucks. So it's
Right.
like you go in, you show up, you do your like, you cross yourself, and then you go to Tim Hortons and you talk business. Like
First of all, I love Tim Hortons.
Tim
Like,
Hortons, yeah.
I will die on Tim Hortons Hill. I went to Canada for the first time in my life in October, and everyone kept talking about Tim Hortons, and it's like Starbucks is meh, right? So I was like, oh, it's
Yep.
Canadian Starbucks. It's so freaking good.
Yeah, get the double.
It's so good. There was like a new shaken iced latte, and it's so freaking good.
That's the funny thing. There's always a Tim Hortons within walking distance from Ukrainian church. It's like they know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to have all the perks. To be fair, so like two things. One, the first time that I was introduced to Hopok in person, like seeing it in person,
Yeah.
was Ukrainian diaspora in New York, and well, actually in Philly in a theater. First time I saw someone who unironically plays Supilka was also Ukrainian diaspora,
Yep.
and someone who unironically plays Bandura is also Ukrainian diaspora,
Yep.
because I think in Ukraine you have to go into like Carpathians or deep villages. And so I went to private school, and there were like lots of quirks with the private school. We had music lessons, and they tried to teach us how to play sopilkas, and
Okay.
no one liked it because it was like, what the fuck, like this is weird Ukrainian instrument. Give me an electric guitar, you know?
It's like we learned the recorder, except like 10 times harder.
Yeah, but it's like we wanted to be cool and westernized, you know, like give us an electric guitar. Like, why are you giving us this wooden weird sort of stick with holes in it? Like, and why do we have to play it? Especially wearing like plachtas and all
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
like, you know. Again, like all of the traditional Ukrainian things felt like costumes growing up because it
Yep.
was imposed in school and something you had to do. While in diaspora communities, it was not. It was like preserved, and all kids knew how to like dance, all kids knew how to play instruments, like everyone was part of like Ukrainian theater or Ukrainian production.
Even I was in a like scouting, like you mentioned plus. There's two other ones.
Oh.
There's also oh, they're gonna kill me. I want to say it's Sum. Yeah, it's Sum. And then there's a third one which absolutely no one knows about, which is Odum.
I've never heard of either of these.
So Sum is like how do I explain Sum? Sum is a little bit more strict than Plast. I don't know all the intricacies there, but then Odum is on the other opposite side of the spectrum, where it's just like a bunch of wild kids with sticks. I was in Odum. Like we basically had a camp like just outside, like an hour away from the city called London in Ontario, and we just ran wild. Like there was like minimal structure, but it was like, yeah, we had like, you know, big trezub in the middle of the camp and like all this stuff. But then I started looking into it, and it was actually pretty interesting because like they were all founded based off of like some sort of either like military or just scouting, or Odum, which I found out is the Організація Демократичної Української Молодь.
Oh,
And it was,
the Organization of Democratic Ukrainian Youth. Cool.
yes, and interestingly enough, what's his name? Not Khvilievei, but the other guy, Bahriani.
Bahriani.
So you know the bar, named after Bahriani, who apparently is the founder of Odum.
Oh,
And so
that's
every
cool.
time now I go to the bar, I'm like camp leader, like
Yeah, right. Like the Buddha statue.
Yeah.
But, well, actually, it's funny because in the previous episode when we talked with Alex, we were talking about tiger trappers and Bahrani, as in you know, as in how the tiger trappers could be a classic, but it isn't
Yeah.
because oopsie doopsie, you know, Russia never wanted it to be, or any Ukrainian writing really. But that's so interesting because see, like growing up in Ukraine, the experience was like so opposite to this. The first time I felt ashamed for not owning a Vyshyvanka was also in New York. I had a Vyshyvanka when I was a kid because I was required to wear it for September 1st when we go to school, and it was a drag.
Yeah.
Because I thought I looked ridiculous. It was like, you know, plachta is the skirt that's made out of two parts, and then there is Vyshyvanka itself, and then there is this like little headband type of thing that
Yeah.
has these two like little pom-poms on the sides.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know, I hated wearing it. And then I was going to all of these holidays with Sophia's family, and everyone was wearing Vyshyvankas, and they would like look at me with judgment.
Be like,
And Sof-
where's your Vyshyvanka?
yeah, I came to church on Easter with them once, and Sophia's mom like came up to me and she was like, Yulia, you really need to get a Vyshyvanka. And I was like, why? And then I like looked around the room and everyone is wearing Vyshyvankas, and I've seen these people multiple times now, and it's not the same Vyshyvanka. It's not that like one, you know.
No, they got like a closet. Like I think
Yeah.
I have like at least 6, and I'm not even like trying. Like they just appear.
Well, I now have a couple of Vyshyvankas. When I moved back here with the full-scale invasion, like my point was I want to have a couple of Vyshyvankas. Like I still want to have one like super traditional one, but I
Yeah.
can't find one that I like because I hate red on me.
Yeah.
And traditional ones have a lot of red on them. So I am trying to find a white on white one that I would like.
Okay.
Or a black and white one that I would like. But I do have an etnodim, like pastel kind of
Yeah.
Vyshyvanka.
I have one of those too.
And I have one from Gunya that's beautiful, but it's so like chic that there is very few occasions where I feel like it's appropriate to wear it because
Fair.
it's very elevated.
I like those though. Like I'm obviously like someone who really likes, I mean, I'm a designer, so like I really appreciate good design. So when I see like Vyshyvankas that are different, I'm like, oh, finally, because like everyone wore, the thing, it has the thing down the collar and on the cuffs, and that's it. And you can just get like basically colored variations. And I guess like the stitching is different, but like I'm always the one who's like, no, I want to stand out. So I've always been like looking for cool ones. And then when I came here, I found like Ethnodim, and I was like blown away by like, wow, okay, so it's both, it's like a mix. You have kind of traditional, but they also mix it with the something else, like different aspects of like, we're not just going to put a, this little star here, but they're also going to have like a goat on the shoulder or something. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, I want the one with the goat.
Well, so I really like that they're modernizing Vyshyvankas now and
Yeah.
are making them like modern and cool and wearable, and they're taking Ukrainian traditional motifs and stuff
Yes.
and putting them into everyday clothing. Like that's cool. I wish that existed when I was a kid so I could actually learn to appreciate the culture through things that resonate with me like in modern times, because I feel like for us the reason why it seems so like stupid, it's because it was outdated.
Yep.
It's like I would look at pictures of my great grandparents and that's like what they wore, and you're sitting there being like, I mean, well, we have fabric that isn't linen. Like, do we have to wear this?
I think like it's funny because it was like the Diaspora was the one that were kind of like preserving all of this stuff, and it was in
It
its like
is.
little bubble. But now with like the war or like full scale invasion started, and that was like a spark for Ukraine to be like, all right, what's ours? And
Yeah.
everyone started digging, and now you're getting like all these super cool things that are coming out of Ukraine now, and it's like when I go back to Canada now, I'm like, oh, you guys are still wearing these boring old Vyshyvankas? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's like the renaissance of Ukrainian culture because we
Exactly.
realized we took it for granted here in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually something that I was talking about, I guess, I don't remember when I first moved here. I did an interview on a Ukrainian channel, and I was talking about how proud I am that actually, at this point, we're not just like printing Sharovarshchina, which there was a lot of that in the beginning of the full scale invasion,
Aw.
like all of the Ghost of Kyiv things, and oh my God. But that we're taking really good quality pieces and we're not just slapping like old school stuff on them. There are lots of designers and painters that and like interior designers too that
Oh, yeah.
take traditional Ukrainian motifs, especially like mazinkas, and making them into beautiful new modern like not kitschy things, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like I love that. I think I'm gonna start using diduchs for New Year's instead of Christmas trees.
Oh, that's a good idea because I have nowhere to put a Christmas tree.
Yeah, and diduks come in like they come in sizes from like this to a massive one.
Yeah, and they're really cool.
Yeah, and that's what we were using until like 1918. And
Huh.
they look so cool. Yeah, and you can make like Christmas decorations from like sino,
Yeah,
so from hay. It's cool.
it is cool.
I wanna bring that back. Who needs a Christmas tree? Who needs Did Moroz? No
Yeah.
one does.
No, no one needs Dead Moroz.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like really cool that the renaissance of Ukrainian culture is happening. However, I will say that there are things with Ukrainian diaspora and sharovarshina, or like for people that don't understand what it is, sharovare are the pants that Cossacks wore once in a while, but Russia wanted to paint Cossacks as clowns, and these pants are like really wide, so they made it look like that's what Cossacks wore on the daily basis, which they didn't because they rode horses and it'd be impossible. But so now everything that's like overly Ukrainian kitschy, we call sharovarshchina. But so for the first time in my New York existence in 2022, I decided to go to church for Easter because the full scale invasion started. I've mobilized my friends,
Yep.
and I was like, we're going to church. So two things happened in church. One, I'm from Lviv, which means I'm Greek Catholic, which I
Yep.
didn't even know. I didn't know there was a difference between Greek Catholic and Orthodox. This is how religious
I'm
I am.
Orthodox.
So I'm
Not one of the weird ones, though.
yeah, well, Ukrainian Orthodox. But so my dad had to tell me that we're actually Greek Catholic, and I found out when I was 28, I think, because I literally just didn't care.
Yeah.
And in Lviv, you don't necessarily go to church for Easter. You pretend like you went to church, and then you just stand outside and bless your baskets.
Oh, yes.
And look at all the other people that did the same thing. Yeah, so that's what you do for Easter at church, and that's how I thought my New York experience of churching is going to be. So I brought my friends, and I accidentally stumbled into a Ukrainian Orthodox church where a service is 4.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So
I've lived through that several times.
and the funniest thing is that I told my friends, I was like, oh, it's like 15 minutes, don't worry. An hour and a half into it. Yeah, and they're all also like traumatized by like, American Catholic upbringing, and they hate churches, so they were just
Right.
like, I mean, at least it's in a different language. So like, I
And the
don't.
singing's meditative.
Yeah, some guy outside gave me an extra pascha because he had one, and because we didn't have like a proper koshik, right, or a pascha, because
like-
it was like an impromptu thing where I was like, I need my culture.
It's like big respect right there.
Yeah, but then what's up with all of the Ukrainian men buying T-shirts that have Vyshyvanka patterns printed on them?
I can admit I have one of these.
I've never seen anything as obscene as that. Like, it's just wear a T-shirt, just blend in with me and wear a T-shirt.
It's like part of the whole thing that like a Vyshyvanka is the uniform, but like Easter you have to get up so early and no one wants to wear the itchy linen, so they're just like, I'm just gonna get the T-shirt out. It's like cheating.
I've never seen Vyshyvanka T-shirts in my life before until I entered that church, and every third man was wearing it.
Yeah.
And some of them also have like little pop collars,
Oh, that's interesting.
like a polo Vyshyvanka.
Oh no, I hate polos, so that's already
Yeah,
like
but it was a polo with the Vyshyvanka printed, like screen printed on top of it. I know. I am also a designer by education. I have a bachelor's degree in graphic design, just FYI. So yeah, it was
painful.
it was an experience. And also all of my American friends were like, so this is Ukrainian traditional attire, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. I have no clue what that is, but it's something.
It's something, all right.
I cannot believe you have a Vyshyvanka t-shirt, honestly, heathen.
I got it because same thing. I was going through a phase in high school, when you're just like, I want to rebel against everything. And it was like everything Ukrainian. It was an interesting phase, and it actually ties in with like what's going on today too, because I was like, okay, everyone's, all this information is coming in from these places. I want to be like seeing what other places I can get information from. So I was like, end of high school, I was like going through Al Jazeera. I was watching RT. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
And then Maidan happened shortly after, and I was just like, oh, and everything snapped together suddenly, and I was just like, now I get it. Now I get why we grew up like this, why we're wearing Vyshyvanka, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to read RT anymore.
Yeah, well, I had sort of like a similar type of experience, well, without RT though, sorry. But in 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine for the first time, right? So I came to New York in 2011, I think. And like 2015, I think, like a year into it, was the first time that I actually started appreciating Ukrainian culture, like for real, and understanding why like those kids that I met like a year ago that seemed really weird to me, like had a point.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like when they were talking about Russia as a mortal enemy, I was just kind of like, dude, get over it. Like Soviet Union, fell apart. Like Russian Empire fell apart. Like we all live in modern times. Like no one cares. Like why are you so fixated on this country that doesn't give a shit about us?
Yeah.
And like,
They knew
right,
something.
right. And yeah, I guess I like started sort of appreciating it and understanding why this culture was preserved so much in like Ukrainian communities abroad, because it like they ran away from being persecuted, right? So it was a big deal. And that was a very, very big experience. Another kind of thing where I realized that people absolutely do not understand the difference between Ukrainians and Russians was, first of all, I've never been exposed to Russians in my life except for Russian-speaking people,
Yep.
which I didn't think were Russians, but that was my only experience with like Russian in general. So like my grandparents, normal people, speak Russian, like nothing's wrong with them. And then I came to New York and I started meeting more and more Russian people. And no matter whether they came from villages or from Moscow, whether they were rich or poor, they were all tacky. They had no manners. They were really annoying. And I didn't even register it until later on. But I started basically saying to people, because there were lots of Russians in my college. And I didn't want to like be friends with them so much that I would just tell people that my parents called me Yulia because I don't know, it was cooler than Julia.
Yeah.
Because I could get away with sounding American, right? So I'd just be like, yeah, no clue. Because, when someone's reading the roster for the class and they're like, oh, Yulia, right? Like you get up and you're like, I'm here. Then all the Russian people in the room are looking at you because like you're them.
Yep.
And I would just pretend like I don't speak Russian, I don't understand Russian because I would just like try to stay away from them. And then it clicked later that it's like I didn't even know Russians before this, right? But they were so like annoying to me based on their behaviors and clickiness and like all of this stuff and the fact that they didn't want to speak English.
Yep.
And like all of it that I just kind of stayed away from them.
I had a similar experience in like first year of university. There was this one guy, I don't even remember his name, but it was like, when everyone's like getting together and they're whatever it's called, like fresh, frosh, whatever. When
Oh, frosh, that's Canada, right? You have frosh. We don't have frosh.
Okay, so we have frosh, and there was this one dude who was just like Russian, and he was like, "Oh, he finds out I'm Ukrainian because I'm just like very, I don't know, like outspoken about it because I'm like yeehaw." But like this guy just started leaning into it and like really like going into like the whole like superiority complex and like really like psychologically like pushing on me. And I was just like, why you gotta be like that? And yeah, like what a couple of years later, like my Don happens, and I'm just kind of like, where's that dude now?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're still here and you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others.
And also turn on your notifications, so you don't miss when the next episode comes out. Potentially with Masha, potentially with another not Masha. We shall see. Well, so I went to boarding school for the first year or something in the US, and there were also Russians there. And obviously, they immediately were like, ooh, let's find our Eastern European people that speak Russian, so let's be friends. And I happen to speak very like academic, very St. Petersburg sounding Russian because my grandfather in general doesn't like when people don't do something, when people don't excel in things
Yeah.
that they do. So when I would like have a Ukrainian accent in Russian, he'd correct me. But also like full disclosure, my grandma was born in Siberia
Okay.
for I don't know
don't
what
know.
reasons she could have been born there. And my grandfather was born in Moscow, but we did a DNA test, and so his parents are from Balkans and the Baltics, and they were Roskurkulanye.
Yep.
So like all of their money was taken away by the Soviet Union, and they were like thrown into like, the trash in Moscow, basically.
Classic.
Yeah, so both of them grew up like speaking Russian, and my grandmother's parents or her grandparents, when she asked them where they were from, they would be like, "Oh, just say you're Russian." So basically, like it was a point in like teaching me proper Russian. So when I started meeting all of these Russian people in boarding school, they would like assume I'm Russian, and they'd be like, "Oh, where are you from?" Right? And I'd be like, "Oh, Lviv." Like their eyeballs could not have popped any bigger because first of all, I'm Ukrainian and I don't sound like I'm from a village, right?
Yeah.
Because to them Ukrainian accent is like you're
just-
from
it's-
yeah, like you're beneath us, right? Then the second part was Lviv and you speak Russian. And there were all of these stereotypes about how like Russian people are murdered in Lviv, right? And I thought it was like a joke. I've never heard that before. It was just like so obscene to me. I was
Yeah.
like, what? What happens to Russian? I'm sorry, my half of my family speaks Russian fine. Like what? So those are the first time that I heard about Bandera and all of these like Russian stupid propaganda points. And it was like I thought they were joking.
Wait,
I didn't
wait, where were you in boarding school?
in upstate New York.
And you didn't hear about Bandera until you were
No,
in
no, no,
New
no,
York?
no. I was saying I didn't hear any of these crazy things
Ah,
coming
okay,
from Russians,
okay.
like the propaganda about Bandera,
Okay.
until the Russians were like telling me this in the boarding school, right?
Right.
And I like it didn't click to me then because I had no idea how brainwashed Russians were, right?
Right.
I didn't realize they knew nothing about Ukrainian history, so I thought they were joking. you
Because
know?
our history doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I legitimately thought these people know, like, that they learn the same things we learn, and they were just kidding until I realized they weren't. Then, I think half a year into my boarding school experience, I said not tuda, as in, like, go there. I said tudoy, because tudoyu in Ukrainian
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
normal thing. And oh my God, that was the first freaking thing they found that was wrong with me and my Russian. And my nickname became Tudoy Sudoy. Because of
That's
course you have to find something to like look down on, right? It's like, oh my gosh, she said a word wrong in
it's
Russian.
so like childish and
I
just
know, but also just such Russian
yeah,
nature, you know?
it is.
It was crazy. I like remember this was like my first experience, and I just thought it was so wild. It was so wild that they kept like talking about all of these crazy like I didn't even know they were stereotypes, to be honest.
Oh,
Because
that's a stereotype?
no, like the the Russians getting killed in Lviv. I was like, I mean, we have Kryivka. It's a joke. Like it's a joke, you know.
We do have Kryivka.
Yeah, but I was just
Watch
like,
out.
I could not comprehend where they got that from,
Yeah.
other than maybe they have heard about Kryivka, right? So to me, it was just so like inexistent in general that it was wild for them to have this like opinion. I thought literally that they saw Kryivka somewhere on TV or something, and they decided that we actually kill Russians. So I was walking around there like an idiot, being like, "Oh no, it's a restaurant, it's a joke."
And they're all like, oh.
Yeah, like actually.
Where do they like, did they learn this in school? Like, they learn this everywhere, don't they?
I think everywhere, like actually, because these were what 16, 17-year-old
Yeah.
kids from like Moscow and some random Kukuyevsk in Russia, and they all knew for sure that Russian people can't go to Lviv because they get killed there. And
Oh, they know it.
oh yeah, no, and for me it was kind of like again, I cannot stress enough how much I was just lost
Yeah.
because what?
It's interesting though, because like, I don't know, I feel like I just didn't spend almost any time with any Russian people in Toronto. Like, I ran across that one guy, and like, even when I took Russian courses in university, like, other than the professor, there was no one else who was like Russian to any degree. So like, maybe I just got lucky. I don't know.
Well, it was also that like thing. So again, for me, like the dislike towards Russian was built in New York. So it wasn't even built in Ukraine
Yeah.
because I associated Russians with like my grandparents, and I don't mean it to say that they are Russian. I mean it to say that my only exposure to anything Russian was Russian language from my grandparents.
Yeah.
So that was my baseline for something as close to Russian anything, right? And then when I came to New York, so my math teacher in my first year of college was Yelena Talalay, and she found all of the Eastern European names on the roster and was like, "You're gonna hate this class because it's basically your seventh grade math." And then she would treat all of us like Russians. And when I would like try to explain to her that there is differences in education between Ukraine and Russia,
Yeah.
and that like actually, yes, sure, this is very easy math for me, but you keep like making these assumptions about my knowledge and my training and my whatever that are just not true because our programs are different.
Yeah.
And she just like wouldn't hear it because to her, everyone that spoke Russian was just Russian, and it was all like the same Russian system.
That's not the case though. Like, even in like, as far as I know, like in Ukraine, the education is actually extremely difficult.
Very difficult.
Like,
Ooh.
like like Yana, my fiance, who like basically has told me things that like, you know, she would be doing things in high school, or like, I can't remember whatever the thing that's like slightly higher than high school is called, but like, and I'm like, that's like what I would be doing in university. Like, I'm scared to ask what you guys are doing in university.
Yeah, because when you get into college or university in Canada or in the U.S., you have to do a bunch of like classes like music, bio, chem, like
Yeah.
so you have a well-rounded education.
Yes.
We get that well-rounded education in elementary, middle, and high school, and then when
Right.
you get to college, like if you're getting a law degree, you're studying law. If you're getting a psych degree, you're studying psych and everything that has to do with psych. You're not doing a random music course or like an art course.
That's true. I had to take geology in university, even though my focus was languages.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like I initially was studying psych because so I have a 2 degree psych and graphic design.
Yep.
And like I started with psychology and I had to take music and art and chem and like physics and stuff that I was terrible at, but I still passed it because it was my like seventh, eighth grade level physics and chem. I actually tanked my first semester in college, not because it was difficult, but because I was depressed.
Right.
Because I was like, I cannot have 4 years of this. Like, are you kidding me? So that was like a massive culture shock between language differences. But since we started talking about your fiance, and
Yes.
since we're talking about the preservation of Ukrainian culture and traditions, she does something that's traditional to her family, right?
She does do something that is very traditional to her family, and it's very interesting.
What is it?
So, I'm not going to give the full breakdown because she could tell the story a lot better than me. But basically, there has been a certain concoction in the family that was originally supposed to be a medicine. And it stood on the shelf a little too long and became a little more than a medicine.
Oh,
And it is now a gin.
oh, that's actually very cool. Like, I thought about this because I heard it's like herbal gin, right?
Yeah, it's like, long story short, there's all these certifications and like there's certain things that you have to meet, like requirements for gin to be gin. One of those is that it has to be she's gonna kill me, 37 or 38% for it to be gin officially.
Yeah.
But this one is a little lower, so it's technically like a tincture or like an herbal liqueur categorically, but it's gin. It's junipers, berries, it's that piney flavor, and it's just a little bit less. But that's so that it's a lot smoother.
And she quit her job to do this, right?
She did. She was like, I'm out of IT. This is insane. I'm not dealing with project management anymore. I'm going to manage my own gin facility.
See, like this is very. I mean, I wish Yana was here to actually tell this story too, because you know, it's we started the podcast being like it's going to be female voices and the female gaze in war and politics, and then every time Masha has something to do, all of the badass bitches that I know are busy, and the only people that are available are either men or their men. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, I did. Listen, I did. I did want you here to talk.
I'll bring
about
my
diaspora.
male voice over here to talk about diaspora.
But I do. No, listen, I wanted to talk to you about this, but also one day I really do want to have Yana on here as well to show.
Oh, she will come.
To talk about it, because I actually thought it was so cool when I first heard about it. It was from a certain man, certain French someone, who was telling me about you, and that your fiance has a liquor business.
This sounds so sketchy.
I know, and I was like, very interesting. And then I met you and followed Jan on Instagram, and then I saw that she was like talking about the launch of Luki.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is not a liquor business. This is like craft gin made in Ukraine by like a family recipe from herbs liquor business.
Yeah, liquor business, that sounds very much of something like Boston Tea Party level, but...
Yeah, because it was like the day that I think we were supposed to meet you at some bar, and you guys had to go to Home Depot Epicenter.
Yeah.
To buy some like distillery stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like we had to go for like bottle. I swear we went to go buy pine trees. Not for this. This is for content making.
Oh, no, at that point it was some very specific like liquor making stuff, and I was like, you know, it's the type of stuff you can either use for like making alcohol or like a meth lab.
Oh, maybe it was the measuring stick thing to check the levels of the alcohol. It could have been that.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah. And I was just like, splendid. I mean,
These people are weird.
I hope they have a great time doing that. You know, liquor business, math lab materials, fun. Cool.
On
Nice.
that note, I think I'm going to pull out a present for you.
Oh.
Sorry, this is directly from the factory
Actually,
itself.
So cute. And it has our... Wait.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm going to try to show it, but like there is our logo on it. There is also Maven Cine merged into one adorable bulldog.
Into one.
And Yana has really good graphic design skills,
Yes, she does.
you know?
Much better than me.
Well, I didn't need your confirmation on it.
No.
As we said, badass bitches, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
We have it here, but this is so cool. I actually wish we had like some cocktail mixtures here so we could...
I'm sure there will be next time.
So how odd would it be if I opened it right now and like tried it? Is that a?
That's normal.
I'm also, I'm also looking at Tanya. It's like I'm also terrible at. Oh,
Straight out of the bottle.
cheers.
Cheers.
Are you sure it's not proof enough to be gin?
Yep.
It's actually a very interesting flavor. It does have like herbal notes to it, but it is strong.
It's supposed to be strong, but it's also supposed to just kind of trust me. If you compare this to Beefeater, this is much better.
Oh no, so my drink of choice in college used to be gin.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, so I barely drink. I drink like once a month. Like I'm always the designated driver, the mom, the like,
Fun.
yeah, always. But I used to drink gin because gin is like the smoothest alcohol that doesn't give you like hangovers.
Sure.
This is really good. But it's also strong. Like
It's good straight, or
would
to
you like
mix
some
it.
of your
I
own gin?
guess I will have some
Yeah,
of the
this
gin.
is our
As if I haven't tested enough of it.
I'm like, I don't drink straight out of the bottle on the podcast.
Yep, that's the gin.
As if like it was gonna be anything else that you know it to be. But this is really cool. So, is this available for purchase? Because obviously, since this is a podcast and I'm, getting a gift from your family business here.
This is now available for purchase at lukygin.com.
At what price? Oh, at what price point? And can you order it? Well, you can't order it abroad yet, right? But you can buy it in Ukraine.
Yeah, we're working on it. You can order it within Ukraine. It's 650 hryvnia for a bottle.
That's actually pretty good.
And a percentage of the sales also go towards supporting our drone manufacturers.
That's cool.
Yes.
Do they have their own little?
Oh, they do, and you can see it on the website.
This is actually so cool. I've never had a bottle of alcohol so lovely done to something that's connected to me. I love this. How do I?
I'm glad you
know
like
what?
it.
We're gonna.
And yes, on the note of badass bitches, this is all Yana. I'm just supporting.
Well, let's listen. Everyone, see, they always say behind a successful man there is always a very well-rounded successful woman. I think behind every successful Ukrainian woman there is a very supportive husband.
Yep, we can go with that one.
But yeah, well, how did she find this? Was this like a family tradition that existed, or?
So long story short, it started off with this. Basically, their family went to the Carpathian Mountains, and as Ukrainians do, they went to drink the water. Me coming from Canada, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, whatever. So they went to drink the water and like be in this wellness retreat thing. And her dad's wife had this stomach issue, and they asked some guy to sort of like, what can we do to, like, we need some kind of medicine or whatever, and he gave him a recipe for this, and I think in Ukraine it's like Vyshyvanka or something like that.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, but I actually don't know what to say that in English.
I don't know. It's like a
pancreas?
Ukrainian disease in my mind, like protya or whatever.
Yeah. But it's like, so Vyshyvankova is pancreas, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
I always thought it was
And then it's like
something.
pancreatitis, but like to a very like minor. Ukrainians love calling things that are not it, like meningitis. Like your mom will tell you not to go outside with wet hair because you'll get meningitis.
Can't eat ice cream because the cold is bad for
But
your
also,
throat.
like, meningitis is a bacterial infection.
Yes.
And every single winter, my dad disowns me because I don't wear a hat.
Thank you.
Yeah, but okay. So she had pancreatitis, right?
Yeah. So, Dad. I guess the family goes home and he tries to make this thing, and he kind of made it, set it on the shelf, came back to check it, and it was just like what is this? And then just like put it back and forgot about it. Next time he came back to check on it, he gives it a whiff, and it's like, wait a minute, is that what I think it is? And like takes a sip, and like boom, he's got gin. So this was like the family drink sort of deal.
Oh.
And then after a while, like we would have a few at home, and people would be like, hey, can I try some? And it just started, rolling. And what happened is, like, when the full-scale invasion started, we were evacuated by the company that I was working for. And people started messaging Yana being like, hey, can we get some gin? Yana's like, we're not in the country. And they're like, well, you got to find a way to get it to us because we're here and we need some gin now.
It's like, but we're sitting here under bombs. We need gin. Make us gin.
It was literally that. And Yana's like, all right, I'll figure it out. And so, you know, a couple of years and months of struggle later, it's now in a bottle. So
That's actually so cool, and it has like a fascinating story, honestly.
yeah, true story.
You know, it's Ukrainian hopniki make chifir out of you know, bread and tea. Is it tea bags and bread?
I've never heard of chifir.
Really?
It sounds like kefir, but like gross.
No. Yeah. So it's if you put bread in, I think it's boiling water and leave it brewing there for a while, the bacteria from bread basically makes this like incredibly strong, sort of partially hallucinogenic,
Ew.
like disgusting drink.
These are things we don't learn in the diaspora.
Thank God. I mean, also, I'm sure at 5 years old you weren't exposed to like teenagers sniffing glue in your
That's true.
in your backyard, but I was. So like, these are the rough '90s, like rough '90s street survival stuff.
I was always wondering why everyone here was saying the 90s were so rough.
The '90s were
There we
rough.
go.
You know, now we make nice craft gin, not chifir. and yeah, did I say it's available for sale at luki.com? Oh, also do tell why Luki. I mean, I know, but you know.
Okay, so Yana and I are getting married soon. So she actually is deciding to take my last name. So as sort of another way to keep the tradition alive is she wanted to name the gin something involving the family. And so her last name is Lukyanchuk. So she shortened it to Luki, and that's the label. There's another, she has a lot of explanations to it. One of them is actually really... A lot of them are really cool, but one of them is that Luki has to do with the name Luka, which is related to the god Mars, who is not only the god of war, but also the god of agriculture, and her family are all not farmers, but agronome. So agro people. So anyways, that all ties into Luki, and that's why the gin is Luki.
That's so cool. That's actually such an interesting way of like keeping your last name alive, because especially like as a girl, because part of me is like, oh, if I ever, you know, like get married, I kind of want to keep my last name because like fuck the patriarchy, but also part of me is just like, I don't really love my last name that much, so it's not, you know.
Fair.
I'm also not like, it doesn't matter to me. It's like if whoever is my future husband has a cooler sounding last name, sure, I'll go with it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, but it's a cool like way to pay tribute, I guess, to your dad if you're the only daughter, or if
I am the only
daughters.
son and of a family that was like 70% wiped out by the Holodomor. So for me, it's also kind of like,
Yeah, you gotta keep that going.
Yeah.
Is your last name Ukrainian? Like,
yeah,
so,
Lahoda,
oh, that's very Ukrainian. Wow, that's like
Poltava region.
that's like
Yeah.
Cossack.
It is.
Yeah.
Literally.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, hey, go Yana. You know.
Yep.
Good for her. So, okay, what was your? I told you so much about like my culture shocks when I moved to like North America and met Ukrainian diaspora. What was your kind of like coming to Ukraine and breaking stereotypes about what you thought Ukraine was going to be like?
Okay, this is good because this is getting into like my designer part of my being.
Okay.
When I came to Ukraine, okay, I've been here like first time in 2006 when I was like 12 years old. We visited the family in the village. I just wanted to read books and kick a soccer ball against the wall because that's really all there was for me to do at the time. Same when I came again in 2014. Same deal. Seeing family was great, but again, it was like, I just want to go to the internet cafe and play World of Warcraft. I did go to the internet cafe in Kyiv, Poltavska Oblast.
Okay.
That was a thing. But when I came here in like 2012 to go to study at UKU, that was the first time I actually came by myself. And I came to study with a lot of people who were from England, the States, Australia, Germany, and like some of them were diaspora and some of them were just people who wanted to learn more about Ukraine, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And like I already knew Ukrainian to a degree, but I came there to like improve it and everything. And they have this summer course, which is awesome, which also helped me get my university degree in Ukrainian language.
Oh,
I minored in Ukrainian.
Oh, Oh, that's cool.
Most of it was done at Ukul, which means that from 9 till 1, we were basically like studying. 1 till 3, we had tutoring. And then from 3 until whenever, we would just go out on the town and have fun and everything. That's when most of the learning happened, because after a couple shots, your language barrier just disappears and you just really start talking Ukrainian with all the people in the bar. And like at that time, I find is sort of like the moment, like after 2014, 2015, when like IT and tech and all these like things really started kicking off.
Yeah.
And I really noticed how forward thinking a lot of Ukrainians were, in the sense of like, this thing is difficult. Like doing documents is difficult. Doing like, why don't we just make this easier with like QR codes, for example? So like, I saw the transition from like paper menus to like QR codes before COVID even happened. And this was like blowing my mind at the time.
Yeah.
And every year I came, there was like another step towards this like digitalized nation. And every time I came back to Toronto, I'd go to the Ukrainian Credit Union and be like, guys, can I please like have a card with a chip in it, or like tap so that I can use my card actually? But here, like everything was already like advancing so fast, it seemed.
Yeah.
And this inspired me so much. And it was part of the reason why I came here in 2016 after university. I didn't like, well, I majored in French, minored in Ukrainian, minored in Russian. And it was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with myself. But I had opportunities here
Yeah.
in that sort of media sphere, and that's how I got into journalism and everything.
Yeah.
But the thing that interested me the most was like the fast-paced change towards this digitalization, which just like
Yeah.
seemed to have stalled everywhere outside of Ukraine almost.
Yeah, and it's sort of like that's how I feel. It's kind of like you feel like you are growing with the country and the country is growing with you,
Yeah.
rather than you are coming somewhere that's already full grown. It's almost like you're just contributing to something that's already there.
Yeah.
While here, it's up to you what this is going to become like. You have the ability to mold this country, but
Yeah.
it also has like a very strong foundation, and it's very sort of like I think of Ukraine as like a 20-something person who is like steadily going towards their dreams, right? Because
Yeah.
it's always something new and progressive. What like struck me the most after not being in Ukraine for like 14 years, right? First of all, to me, Ukraine was like cave age, right? Like I remember Ukraine in like 2011, okay?
Yep.
Like different country. So when I came here for the first time and it was like QR codes and menus, Dia, all of these things, I was like, excuse me? Like I was trying to open a bank account on my phone, and then like I had a phone call, like a video phone call from some woman in Kyiv, and she just like scanned my face
Yeah.
and then was like, all right, cool, like here's your bank account, go activate it. And I was like,
What do you mean go act? Where am I supposed to go?
yeah. And she's like, the app. And I'm like, what app? Like, it was just, I'm like, well, this was actually before I even came to Ukraine. I was in New York.
Yeah.
And I opened a bank account in Ukraine in 5 minutes. And I was just sitting there like staring at my phone being like, is this a prank? Yeah, okay, cool. That's what we're doing. Then I came to Ukraine, I saw the QR codes, all of this stuff. And then the other thing that really, really struck me is that most of the people in managerial positions and positions of power, like CEOs and stuff, are like 30.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
No one's like, in America, when you're being interviewed for a job,
Oh, yeah.
it's like an old white dude
Yeah.
who's older than your grandpa and looks like he's decomposing.
Yep.
Here, every person who's like a business owner, someone successful, a politician, they're like 25, 35, 40. You know, it didn't even like register until I thought about how many people we've met that, because at first I came here with like work. And I was doing a lot of interviews, and I was doing a lot of like help and activism and stuff like that. And I was meeting a lot of people in these like high positions in like the military and the lawmakers and stuff. And they were all like my age.
Yeah.
And some of them were younger than me. And I'm 30. And I'm just like, so you're the minister of what again? You know? So it was really cool because that's what it should be. It's like the driver of progress is,
Exactly.
you know, yeah. And it was absolutely mind blowing to me because that's not the case in North America.
No, I keep trying to think of like how to even like frame that, because like in my mind it's like, I don't know if it's like older people are trying to hold on to power in North America, and here
yeah.
they're not, but that's not the case. It's more of like a lot of the older people here just like they can't keep up with it almost.
Yeah, yeah. But also, like, why? You know, we talked about this in some other episode, but it's like you wouldn't trust your grandpa with like deciding where you should live or what
Yeah.
to study because they're outdated. Like, why are you putting your grandpa into your government to rule your country and decide everything for you? Like, why?
Speaking of that, actually, I just remembered because there was that senator in the States like a couple days ago, and she was like talking about how we got to get the A1 into the lower grades. And I was like, what is she talking? And then I realized it was AI. And I'm like, how much in a box do you have to live in to not understand that like AI is a thing that people are using on the daily?
A1.
A1. And this person is a senator in American politics. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
like,
they're dinosaurs.
what? Like,
You know, it's kind of my grandma calls Abercrombie and Fitch Cromwell. So it's about that type of, you know, it's that type of deal.
I'm just like, I'm shocked because like if you like literally anyone like anyone's babushka here will be like, oh, talk AI.
Yeah, like my
Я
mom,
знаю AI.
dude, like I was so confused because like I don't necessarily think of my parents as like super techie people.
Yeah.
Like my dad is really not. Like he's still so I brought him an iPhone from the US that he paid for like when I was in the US in October. I did not have time to set it up for him. It is still in the box. Okay, and like I'm pretty sure he's going to ask me to set it up again when I'm there on Easter, but the man doesn't have Wi-Fi at his house because he doesn't need it. He has
Yep.
data. And like my dad is like, you know, he's young and hip and like cool. He just doesn't understand technology. So my idea of my mom was like, okay, she has an iPad. She likes spending time on it, but I don't think she's like that tech forward. We're walking down the street. I ask her a question. She's like, oh, I don't know. 5 minutes later, she gives me this like super extensive answer. And I'm like, did you just Google it? And she's like, oh no, ChatGPT told me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
It's because it's so intuitive. You just like ask it, but you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, but like, who's like, my mom is 57.
It's cool when you see the older generation using stuff like AI. The thing that concerns me is when you understand that it's not just the older generation, but like people can't tell the difference of what was created by AI. Like my mom, for example, sent me this video of like German shepherds dressed in like Ukrainian flags who were jumping out of airplanes. And they were like paratrooper dogs. And she's like, look at these doggos. And I was like, yeah, but there's so many artifacts in this. And I don't even know how to explain to her that like this was totally generated by AI. And as much as I appreciate the like patriotism of like
Oh,
Ukrainian German shepherds jumping out of airplanes on special operations missions, I don't know if that's the kind of thing that we should be like.
My favorite one is like Nafo on Twitter trying to be helpful and like generating images of very clearly AI Ukrainian former military personnel doing like crazy awesome stuff with their prosthetic legs.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like these what is this, like pictures of a girl and a guy in uniform and then them together in a white dress and in a suit at a wedding, and like she's missing an arm and he's missing a leg, and I'm like, I see the sentiment, but it's really not helping because this is not real.
This reminds me almost of like, you remember like back in like the, I don't know, like the mid 2000s when like all you saw was like, okay, maybe it's because I'm a guy, but like it was like always about the Russian Spetsnaz on YouTube doing like their backflip things and all this. And now I'm looking at it like, what is this circus? But like back then it was like, whoa, look how cool they are. And I'm like, this is kind of like the equivalent of that. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like how we were trying to be, how Russia was trying to brainwash us with Brigada.
Yeah.
Like, well, Brigada, I'm sorry. And it was like the coolest mobster TV show. And then I tried to rewatch it when I was like before the invasion of Eastern Ukraine. And I was watching it on like, I found it on YouTube and I was like, wow, what on earth is this? Like, this is so, it's a bunch of hopniki, like trying, like chavs basically, trying to just, I don't even know. There's no plot.
yeah, like we didn't grow up with that.
A bunch of hopniki died, like by killing each other, pretty much. This is like the summary of the TV show. And it was supposed to be relatable, but it wasn't relatable because it wasn't like that in Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know? It was just like very strange.
Well, now we have Nosori. So I think it's a little deeper probably, but
Well, we actually have some really cool like Ukrainian cinema now. I think one of the best sort of like things that came out of like this boom of the renaissance of Ukrainian culture is that we completely stopped showing
trying
Russian
to
TV.
be Russian to any
Yeah,
degree.
yeah, to any degree. And it's like we started doing cool movies and cool TV shows that are actually based on our culture,
Yep.
not what we thought our culture should be, which is like closer to Russia.
Yep.
And look at that. Suddenly, our TV shows are not synonymous to like dumb blonde with fake lips trying to get rich dude on Mercedes. It's actually about like teenagers and, complexities of like sort of being a teenager and,
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember what it's called.
Перші
Stop
ластівки.
Zemlya?
No, Перші ластівки, I think. It was
okay.
like a bunch of it was like a bunch of different there is a bunch of different ones that
Yeah.
are actually very Western in terms of like, the things that they explore. So I'm so there's only positives that are coming out of saying bye-bye to Russia.
Yeah, even like comedy's gotten better. Like there was that movie
Yes.
Mої думки тихі or whatever. Or Мої тихі. Okay, it's like it's. I think it's hilarious, and there are so many movies that are like of that caliber that are coming out. It's like this guy who's like, he's a sound producer, and he goes to this Canadian like agency who's like, I need to get the sound of this rare duck, and he's like, I will get the sound of this duck for you. And it's like this story that is actually about like relationship between like him and like his job, him and himself, him and his mom, because his mom plays a big part in it. It's hilarious and I highly recommend it. But then you go from like the comedies to stuff like Pamphir, which is like just
See, I'm still trying to get over Americans that are very Ukraine supportive telling me how much they love Servant of the People and how great of a show it is. And me just being like, yeah, I mean, I get it. You like Zelensky. He's been giving great speeches. I mean, I like him in the international politics circle too. He stands up for us.
yeah.
You don't have to say that the TV show is good. Maybe for you, it's like, like cheeky
Yeah.
and like quaint.
Yeah.
For me, it's embarrassing. Like,
I rewatched it now and I'm cringing a little bit, to be quite honest.
cringing a lot bit. Like, oh my God, I'm happy we're like moving away from that. We don't need any. Can we like go back to Dovzhenko and all of that time, with like revolutionary movies?
That's the spicy stuff there.
Speaking of like, so since my office was hit with a ballistic missile the other week, again.
Your office, our office.
Okay, your former office, my current office.
Oh, okay, fair,
so
fair.
No, the office that was your office was hit by a ballistic missile 2 months ago.
That's what it was.
The new office was hit by a ballistic missile 2 weeks ago.
Okay, because I've been trying to figure this one out.
Yeah, because they moved across the street, which was like just, just the dumbest thing ever. And I remember thinking like, you do realize that someone told me lightning doesn't strike twice. And I was like, we're talking about Russian ballistic missiles. Yes, it does. All
That's
the time.
literally the tactic.
Like all the time. And that is also the note on which I suppose we are ending, sort of like wrapping up, which is so fun. Like, hey, here is a discussion of Ukrainian culture and all of these cool aspects of being diaspora and Ukrainian and moving. And yeah, here is a ballistic missile strike.
But we have gin.
But we do have gin. That was very clever product placement right now. But yeah, so why don't you say goodbye to, I love putting people on the spot who haven't done this before. So what's your conclusive statement?
I think my conclusive statement is going to be that I got a good one actually, and it's something my dad told me. It's that you always have to know your history, otherwise you won't have a future.
That's actually really cool. And you did pull a Masha right now, because every single time, and you didn't even know, but every single time we wrap up an episode, Masha has an inspirational quote.
Great.
And she makes you think about it. So yeah, if you are not Ukrainian, what is your history and do you know a lot about it? And if you do, tell us some. And yeah, thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Of course, turn on your notifications and do what?
Oh, you can follow me.
Yes, you can also follow Mishko. We're gonna leave a little link to his profile here. I'm also gonna leave a link to Jin underneath. But what he was meaning to say is do comment, do like, and do share the podcast because, you know, in the economy of YouTube, it does help. Oh my God. Also, I forgot before we leave, it's Cindy's birthday. It's Cindy's 5th birthday today. And every single freaking year, I forget that it's this dog's birthday. Then I remember 2 days later, and then I buy her all of the treats. I'm going to have to go spend some money in a couple of days.
He's good.
Okay.
Celebrating with sleep.
Yeah.